Hello pilots and welcome back to another faction breakdown brought to you by Out of Art Gaming. As always, my name is Phil. Continuing on from our last episode where we looked at the Galactic Empire, this time we will be looking at the Rebellion, the most notable faction within X-Wing. Again, we'll be looking at the standard ships that have been released in version 2, and in a later video we will look at the extended ships. But let's get cracking straight into this. First up, when talking about the Rebellion, there's only really one place to start, and that is with the T-65 X-Wing. This game is named after the ship after all, so it'd be remiss to leave this till later in the list. Now, this is a fantastic ship. You have 10 different pilots to choose from, range from out-and-out attack to squadron support. There is a pilot there for everyone. This ship is nimble enough to get into a fight and tough enough to stick around. With 3 red attack dice, 2 evades, 4 hull and 2 shields, you have a rather tasty ship. You get focus, target lock and barrel roll. With the config card, when you have it closed, you do also get a boost and focus to red boost. However, you do sacrifice 1 primary dice for that. Now it has a great dial as well, getting most of the moves on there, including the 1 and 2 blue straights and banks. You also get the red talon roll and a 4k turn, so this is a really good ship and well worth keeping a lookout on. Now, there are several notable pilots in here, especially if you are a huge fan of the movies. We are going to look at only 2 of them, with an honourable mention for a third in a moment, but where better to start than with Luke Skywalker. I mean, he is just synonymous with the X-Wing in Red 5. Now, he also gets the bonus of having 2 force. His ability, after you become the defender, before dice are rolled, you may recover 1 force. This is incredibly powerful, as you could be shot at several times, spend the force and then just gain it straight back, allowing you to feel more flexible in using that force, where other force users can get starved of this. Now, the other notable pilot we have on here is, of course, Wedge Antilles, Red 2. We all know him. Everyone that doesn't play Rebels hates to see him on the board, but while you perform an attack, the defender rolls 1 fewer defense dice. And we know that he is most likely going to be stapled with outmaneuver as well, making him an absolute powerhouse, especially at Initiative 6. He is just fantastic. Combine that with the fact that you can give him a 2nd talent slot, a torpedo and an astromech. It's just incredible what you can do with the T-65 in Wedge's hands. Now, I do want to give out an honourable mention as well to Edrio 2 Tubes of the Swords Renegades pack. He is a great pilot, especially when combined with another pilot we'll talk about when discussing the U-wing. Now, there are a lot of things to talk about when it comes to pros and cons for this ship. It is very versatile, again, with the abilities of torpedoes, astromechs, illicit slots for your Swords Renegades. You also have talent slots, modifications. There's so many things you can do to this ship. The lack of an evade action and only getting boost at the sacrifice of a primary red dice can feel a bit limiting, but this is a staple of the Rebellion power. Overall, this ship is perfect for all levels of skill, from beginner to expert, as you'd expect from a game named after it, and I'm sure you'll be able to find a ship that fits your playstyle. Moving on to another iconic small base ship for the Rebellion, we have the BTL-A4 Y-wing, made famous in the Battle of Yavin and various other battles in which it was involved in. This ship is just so iconic, so well known. Again, like the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter, its chassis is just so easily recognisable. Now, it's an interesting ship. You only get 2 attacks, 1 evade, 6 hull and 2 shields. You get focus, target lock, the red barrel roll and a red reload on here. You get access to 6 different pilots, and they can all do quite different things, but they are very, very interesting. The dial, it's not the best, but it's not terrible. You do get a 4K turn, you do get some blues on there, but it's not going to be running around your opponents very quickly. Now, when we're looking at notable pilots, I think there are two that most people are likely to see. The first one is Dutch van der, Gold Leader. Now, his ability is just amazing, especially when you are flying in close formation with a swarm of those ships. So after you perform a target lock action, you may choose one friendly ship at range 1 to 3. That ship may require a lock on the object you locked, ignoring range restrictions. This is just synonymous with the Rebellion's style of assisting their squadrons and working together to take down their foe. It just absolutely capitalises that, and Dutch van der is pretty much your go-to Y-wing. If you're only ever flying one, he is the one you're most likely to look at. Now, another one to look at is actually Nora Wexley, Gold 9, Initiative 5. While you defend, if there is an enemy ship at range 0 to 1, add 1 evade result to your dice results. This really mitigates that 1 evade dice that you would normally get as a Y-wing, and gives Nora some really good survivability. She has the same ability in the Arc 170 as well, but it just means that you can feel a bit more confident of throwing Nora right into the fight there and being able to just dish out quite a lot of damage. Now, as we said, the Y-wing doesn't have the best dial, and only 1 evade does mean that you're not really going to want to throw it right into the fight. But what it does have is access to turrets, torpedoes, bombs, and all sorts of other shenanigans. So sticking on an ion cannon turret or a dorsal turret can mean that you are going to cause untold pain to your foe. Having access to R4 Astromech as well is going to make it a little bit more nimble on there, or even the R5 Astromech to double down, R3 Astromech to double down on those target locks is going to be super handy. It is a great ship, and in numbers can be very devastating to your opponents. As a general rule for this ship, you're going to be using it as a turret platform or a missile boat, or even just dropping bombs all over the place. This is what this ship is designed for. Getting towards the side of your opponents, trying to control where they're going to go with the ion cannon turret is a very good strong play, and getting alpha strikes with some torpedoes is going to be your main focus when using this ship. Now going to the other end of the original trilogy, we have the RZ-1 A-wing. This ship was seen to great effect in the Battle of Endor, including smashing into the bridge of the Superstar Destroyer. RIP there, Arvel Crinid. We knew you for such a short time. This ship is nimble, it's exciting, it's the fastest ship in the game with its dial. Now, when it comes to attack, the one thing that is a little bit disappointing with the A-wing is that it only has 2 red dice. It does have 3 greens, 2 hull, 2 shields, and a very solid action bar with focus, evade, target lock, barrel roll, and boost. It also comes with the vectored thrusters ship ability, so after you perform an action, you may perform a red boost action. You can change this with the Vector Cannons config, where you gain a turret indicator and you treat the arc requirement of your primary attack as the turret. Now, this can go forward or back, and during the system phase you may perform a red boost or rotate action. Now, this is going to be your nimble ship that is going to try and fly around and flank your opponents wherever possible. As I said, it has the 2 through 5 blue straights. It has the 1 white hard, all the 2s are blue. It has the 3 hard, the 3 sloop, and the 5k turn. So this ship is going to be moving very quickly. If it does gain stress, it's going to be removing it in quite an effective manner. Now, you've got several good pilots on here from the original packs, and also moving into the Phoenix Cell Squadron pack. But I think we're going to look at two pilots in particular. We have Jake Farrell, the I-4 Sage Instructor. After you perform a barrel roll or boost action, you may choose a friendly ship at 0 to 1. That ship may perform a focus action. Now, it's a bit tricky to get your head around, but there is so much crazy stuff you can do with this. If you actually have a look in the rules reference, there is an FAQ on there of just some of the crazy shenanigans where you can stack up so many abilities between Jake and another ship. It's just absolutely insane. We mentioned him earlier as well. Another ship that I'm a big fan of is Arvel Krinig, Green Leader. You can perform primary attacks and count them when you're at range 0 and count them as range 1. Now, this is incredibly powerful. A lot of the ships that could actually shoot at range 0 prior to 2.5 had tweaks to their abilities, so they counted as range 1, so they didn't lose their effectiveness there. So Arvel can just go full ham and bump into your opponent and still get a range 1 modified shot. Also, if you would fail a boost action by overlapping another ship, resolve it as though you were partially executing a maneuver instead. So if you want to guarantee that bump, you can do, I don't know, a 5 forward, do a focus, and then say, I'm going to do a red boost. And then that's it, you are right there. He is only initiative 3, so it does mean your opponent might move away from that, but the power in Arvel is actually quite insane. Now, as I said, this ship is very fast, it's very nimble, it can get across the board quickly. It's the Rebellion's answer to the TIE Interceptor. Arguably, you could say where it actually has the shields and the 1 extra hit point, it has the survivability over the Interceptor. It does have the 2 red dice, which can make the A-wing feel like it doesn't have a lot of teeth. However, you can equip missiles to these. Generally, they all have 2 talents and you can add modifications. So there are a lot of things you can do to make the A-wing a lot more punchy than its initial stat line would appear. Continuing with ships introduced in Return of the Jedi, we have the ASF-01 B-wing, or Blade Wing if you prefer. This ship, I'm not gonna lie, I love this ship. I think it's so cool, especially with the new model with the actual closing S-foils and the rotating cockpit. We also saw this in the Rebels episode with the prototype flown by Hera taking out the Architans. It's an incredibly powerful chassis, quite intimidating on the board, and it does have a lot going for it. This ship can be stacked to the nines. It has so many different options of what you can give it: sensors, cannons, torpedoes, device, talent, modification. It has its own config card, which we'll come on to in a minute. It has 3 red dice, only 1 evade, 4 hull, 4 shields. It has focus to red barrel roll, target lock, and the white barrel roll. The config card, when closed, before you activate, if you're not critically damaged, you may flip this card. Before it's flipped at the close, it gives you the barrel roll to red evade and the red reload. When it's flipped, after you perform an attack, you may spend your lock on the defender to perform a bonus cannon attack against that ship using a cannon upgrade you have not attacked with this turn. And this also gives you the white barrel roll to red target lock. So this ship can just go in and double tap to its heart's content. Now, as I said, general role in this one is it's going to be your bruiser. It's got a lot of health, it can go down quickly, but with the options it has, it can get in, do a really good alpha strike, get out and come back in again. There are quite a few really good pilots on here, but I think, in my opinion, obviously you might have a different opinion, but I think two of the best pilots, you have Braylon Sram, the Blade Leader. While you defend or perform an attack, if you are stressed, you may reroll up to 2 of your dice. And on a similar vein, you have 10 Numb. While you defend or perform an attack, you may spend 1 stress token to change all of your focus results to either an evade or hit results. I think, given what this ship can do in terms of becoming stressed, these two really play in to its ability there. If you look at the dial, there is a lot of red on there. It has the red 1 hard, red 3 banked, and red 4 straight, as well as a 2 K-turn and a 1 Talon roll. The action bar, as we said, has quite a lot of red bits on there as well, so it's really easy to stress these ships out and then utilise that stress and not feel too much punishment later on. Obvious pros and cons with this ship. A pro, it has a lot of health and can deal out a lot of damage. It is, as I said, a powerhouse. With the stabilised S-foils config, it can be double tapping with various different upgrades, auto blasters, heavy laser cannon, ion cannon turrets, to name a few. Again, 1 evade dice can mean that it can be whittled down quite quickly with focus fire, and although some of these ships do like to utilise those stress tokens, it can get stressed quite easily, and if you do have it in a position where it's stressed, it can be difficult to remove that and get turned back around into the fight. However, if used well, the B-wings can be absolutely monstrous. Now, a lot of these standard Rebel ships have featured either in the movies or in the various TV shows, and this next ship comes straight out of the Rebels TV show, set between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. If you've not watched it, I highly recommend it. A very good show, adding a lot of good lore and some really good characters. It also brought us the captured TIE Fighter, as it was known in version 1, and I mean, straight off the bat, you get a really cool colour scheme there done by Sabine Wren in the show, just making it stand out on the board so well. Now, this is your standard TIE Fighter, so it's 2 attacks, 3 evades, 3 hull, focus, evade, barrel roll. Exactly as you would expect from a TIE Fighter. No real difference to the chassis there. What you do get with this is some really interesting pilots, with the Force, really good actions, and just so much extra flavour you can add. It works as a great support ship for other ships as well. Definitely worth having a look at. You don't see it all that often anymore. Again, although this is classed as a standard ship, it hasn't actually been re-released for 2.0. I'm looking forward to when it is, to see maybe if we get some new pilots. But having a look at the notable pilots on there, we do have Ezra Bridger, Spectre 6, who is I3 in the TIE Fighter. This gives you a TIE Fighter with the Force. Now, Ezra's ability, while you defend or perform an attack, if you are stressed, you may spend 1 Force to change up to 2 of your focus results to evades or hits. So really, again, another Rebel ship rewarding you in a way for having a stress token and being aggressive with your flying there. Now, it has similar pros and cons to the Empire TIE Fighter. I think one of the big pros for this is that you do get 4 interesting pilots with 4 very different abilities that can be utilised in a number of ways to help your squadron out, or just provide a bit of a roadblock for your opponent. But the classic downsides there, no shields, meaning that it can go down quite quickly. But as we know, TIE Fighters are stubborn and they tend to hang around. So this is definitely a ship to look out for. Now, just before we move on to more of the Rebellion ships, guys, just want to say, if you like what we're doing and you've got any suggestions or any differing opinions on what we're saying in these videos, drop a comment down below. We love to hear your opinions, see what you think, which pilots you think maybe we missed or haven't been given enough love, or which ships you would like to see new stuff for. So feel free to drop a comment down below. We love to see them and we'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Next up, another ship that made its debut in Rebels but was also shown in the Clone Wars in various different guises. We have the Sheathipede class shuttle. Now this is obviously well known for being able to dock with the VCX 100. It has the title The Phantom, which gives it some benefits for doing so. Now this is a bit of a surprising package, I will say. And the notable pilot we'll come up to in a moment does have a bit of a nickname within our local community. But having a look at its stat line, you get a dual front and back arc with 2 red dice apiece, 2 evades, a 4 hull and 1 shield. The standard ships will get a focus and coordinate action. However, one of the pilots does get calculate and coordinate. Now it does have the ship ability Com Shuttle, so while you are docked, your carrier ship gains the coordinate action. Before your carrier ship activates, you may perform a coordinate action. So this ship really rewards you for having it docked to the Ghost, making it, again, another ship that works really well with the Rebellion in that support function, allowing other ships to be able to do multiple things. Now, the dial on it is limited but not bad. You do get 1 through 3 blue straights, the 2 banks of blue. You do get access to a 3k turn, 2 hard, 1 and 3 bank and a 4 red straight. You do also get a red 1 reverse, which is always something that is going to surprise your opponent when you actually do it, as I believe there are maybe 2 or 3 ships that have a reverse maneuver. So something that is definitely worth keeping an eye out for there. Now, as I said, this ship's general role is going to be there to provide support and action economy for your other ships. So when attached to the Ghost, you're going to be able to get a rear shot and the coordinate before you activate. When undocked or even not even flown with the Ghost, you've got that coordinate to provide that additional action to your ships. And with a lot of the pilots, they're actually quite low initiative pilots, so it could be that you give them an early action, freeing up their action bar for later on. Now, the notable pilot I want to look at today is the AP5 Escaped Analyst Droid. Those of you familiar with Rebels will more than no doubt know this character. He is an Initiative 1, so he's not very high up the board. But while you coordinate, if you choose a ship with exactly 1 stress token, it can perform actions. So again, another fantastic ability for supporting there, especially if your ship has just done a stressful maneuver and you're going to be doing a blue maneuver with that ship. You can give it an action to start with, and then it does a blue and then goes through all of its other actions. Really good economy there. Now, I did mention that this ship has a bit of a nickname within our local community as AP5 the Killer, as he's surprisingly effective, especially when he does undock from the Ghost and just appears in the midst of people. He has been very effective within store, so quite an interesting ship there. Now, I think that this has a lot of pros for this ship. It's a very good support ship. The 2 dice out the front and back make it really handy in a fight, especially if you can get stuck right in the middle. And it's quite a healthy ship with 5 hit points in total, especially for the size of it. It's not a big ship, but it is very healthy. You can get some good crew and astromech abilities on there. Doubling it up with being in the Ghost is also really powerful. Again, its action bar is very limited, only having focus or calculate and coordinate. So it's definitely not going to be a ship that is going to be highly maneuverable, getting right in there and having a good dogfight. But in the vein of the Rebels and support, this ship is going to be key. Now, due to the sheer number of ships that the Rebellion actually has access to as standard, we are actually going to split this into 2 videos. But before we move on, or before we close out this video, there is one more ship I would like to look at, and that is the first medium-based ship on our list, which is the UT-60D U-wing, a fantastic ship introduced in Rogue One, with 2 variations actually having been released, including the Source Renegade pack, which saw our first taster of 2.0 cards and dials. Now, this is a great looking ship. As I said, the model has the opening and closing wings, which have actually an effect in the game, and introduced one of the first real configs as well. Now, for a stat line, it's got a pretty good one actually. 3 attack, 2 evade, 5 hull, and 3 shields. You get access to focus, target lock, and the red coordinate, meaning this ship is going to be fantastic when it comes to providing support for your other squadron. Now, you do get the pivot wing title as well. Now, with this, there's obviously 2 variations to this. When it's open, it does nothing, so it's just there, but before you activate, you may flip this card. While you defend, roll 1 fewer defense dice. After you execute a stop maneuver, you may rotate your ship 90 or 180 degrees. Before you activate, you may flip this card. So a really good option there for turning around very quickly. Something that without this, the U-wing does struggle with, especially with its dial. It's not a great dial. It has the red stop, which is fantastic. It's got the 1 through 4 straights, all the banks, and a 2 hard, and its blue maneuvers are the 1 and 2 straight and banks. So without the pivot wing, it's not going to turn around really quickly. Now, as I said, this ship's main role is going to be supporting your other ships. So there are a number of pilots and crew that you can use, which will increase the effectiveness of other ships. It does have a really good attack with 3, so it can also hit out quite a nice punch as well, but generally you'll probably be using this to support your other ships. Now, a couple of pilots I want to bring up here. One we've mentioned previously, but firstly I want to have a look at K2SO. He is a fantastic pilot and really quite interesting as well, as he has a calculate instead of his focus, but he also has the ability, after you gain a stress token, gain 1 calculate token. So you can do that red stop and gain a calculate, or even do the coordinate and gain a calculate. So that is quite an interesting option there, making him a bit more viable, a bit more flexible when it comes to the actions. Now, with most of your Y-wings, you are going to U-wing, sorry, you're going to get a lot of options there. So you get crew options, you get talents. Some of these Source Renegades versions get the illicit slot, modification, and sensor. So you can tool these up quite well. Now, the other ship I wanted to mention, which we did mention when we were talking about the T-65, is benthic chew tubes. After you perform a focus action, you may transfer 1 of your focus tokens to a friendly ship at range 1 to 2. Now, that in itself is a great ability. When you couple that up with Edrio 2 tubes, before you activate, if you are focused, you may perform an action. That is just brilliant. Especially because benthic is I2 and Edrio also I2. You can choose which order they activate. So a really nice combination that you can do there. Now, there are a number of other great pilots on there as well. Now, pros and cons for this ship. Again, it's got quite a nice attack there with 3. The coordinate is really handy, and you can put some really good crew on here to assist you. You've got some fun pilots. It's got a fair amount of health with 8 total hit points, and when utilising that pivot wing correctly, it can be quite manoeuvrable. Again, 2 evades can be a bit tricky, especially if you've got your wings closed. Dropping that down to 1, it does mean that this ship is susceptible to being focus fired down, And again, to turn around, you really need to use that pivot wing at the right point. So that does make it quite tricky. But all in all, the U-wing is a really cool ship, looks great on the board, and definitely has a really solid place within the Rebellion faction. But guys, that's going to close out part 1 here for the Rebellion. We will be back later with part 2. There are still plenty of standard ships to be looked at, so don't worry, we haven't forgotten any of them. As we said earlier, if you feel that we've missed any pilots or there's any other pilots you want us to look at in the future, just drop a comment down below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. In the meantime guys, thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time.